Today's video we're going to be unboxing and reviewing the Plantronics BB Fit. These are wireless sport headphones and they're used for running or any type of workout. They're supposed to be really good for all sorts of wet work. You can see here it's got 8 hours listening time, so the battery's supposed to be great. I just came off with a pair of Jabra headphones and they were terrible. They said up to 5 hours and they lasted maybe about an hour and a half tops. So apparently these ones boast a lot more battery life, which is really important if you're out for long runs. 6 hours talk time as well, and 14 days standby, 6 months deep sleep mode. I don't really know what that is. Maybe that means it's when it's switched off. 24 grams of weight. These are a newer version of the previous Backbeats, which were out in the market for quite some time. I also tried those out and they worked pretty well. They eventually ended up falling apart, but that's another story. So I'm reviewing these from New Zealand. This is not endorsed at all, I should say, by any manufacturer or anything like that. These were purchased here in New Zealand for 199 New Zealand dollars, as you can see on the front. So I'm going to unbox these. Let's get straight to it. It's quite a nice little box. It's got a sort of magnetized lip on it there with a sort of cloth, I guess, little Plantronics lip. And as you can see, it's well presented in there. So from the top, you can see there's a sticker on there, so I'll just peel the sticker off. It's quite hard to do this one-handed. Anyway, let's take that sticker off. Let's get in this sucker. There it is, pulled out the box now. There it is. It's real stuck in here real tight. Oops. There's the headphones. Cool. Alright, what have we got here? We've got this cardboard thing, and then we've got this other fairly heavy thing. We've got a get started manual. So there is a little flap there at the front, which is really hard to get into one-handed, so apologies for that. There is a whole bunch of manuals in different languages, as you can see here, so I think we may be here sometime. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got an English Get Started manual. We have a For Your Safety manual in multiple languages. We've got some sort of, I don't know what. Limited warranty. There you go. And then the menu, the Get Started guide in multiple different languages. There we go. Plenty of languages. I could take a guess at all of these, but I won't. So charger cable's at the bottom of the box, down here. Just the normal USB type connector. I'd probably recommend with every one of these Bluetooth devices, or any device which has got a lithium battery in it, to charge it fully before you start using it. So yeah, just be aware of that. I've decided to charge this one before I even switch it on, and you can see that it's glowing red, so there's obviously some charge to be had before its first use. So I'm just going to let this thing charge for at least 2 hours. I'm not in any rush to charge it, and you can see there the USB connector just fits in to the side of the headphone there, and you can see this little flap that's pulled down in order to access it. Now, I might remind you again that these are supposed to be completely waterproof and sweat-proof as well. So they're coated in a sort of extra layer of sort of invisible skin. So let's just see if that holds up to the test. We'll find out later on in this review. Okay, so now that we've taken the headphones out of the box, let's have a look at the user manual and let's take it step by step through. So
So let's just have a quick look at the device before we switch it on. So the headphones are multi-function headphones. Now these are buttons here. It's very difficult to see, but these have a little bit of feedback in them, just a little bit of spring. Same on the other side, and that's the play and pause button. Very difficult to make out because of these sort of black colours, but there you go, you can see that there. Now the other buttons are these tiny little indentations. Again, very difficult to make out, but there's a raised sort of lip right there, and that actually is the primary button for each side. So if we go back to the user manual, it shows you what the purpose of each of those buttons are. So let's start with the obvious, the play pause one. You can see the play pause symbol on there. If you press it once, it will play or pause the music that you're listening to. And to play the previous track, you hold it down until you hear the confirmation tone. If you want to increase the volume, then you hold down this button here, this little raised button. Okay. To increase it, you press it. To decrease it, you hold it down. Now, when you're on a call, you can answer the call just by pressing the call button, which is the same button as the multi-power button. So this is this one here. I don't generally end up using my sports headphones to answer calls, primarily because the audio pickup has never been that great. This tiny little hole down there is the microphone. They're not really great at noise cancelling, those microphones, so I tend to be running along and probably don't even want a phone call, but if I have to take a phone call, I'll probably have to find shelter somewhere, stop what I'm doing and answer the call, because the wind, especially in windy Wellington here in New Zealand, is atrocious for quality of the call. So just bear that in mind if you are going to take calls. These are not the sort of ideal telephone headsets. Okay, so if you want to answer a call, as I say, you just press the main multifunction button there. So let's go ahead and pair this device for the very first time. So to do so, you press the tiny little raised button that we were talking about earlier on the right hand side. So that's just this little lip right about there. Hold that down for a few seconds and you can see there's now a blue light and it's sort of going back and forth, blue, red, and that means it's ready in pairing mode. So let's just see if the phone picks it up. So you can see when you go into your Bluetooth menu and search for the device, it's listed there at the bottom. So just select pairing. Okay, so it allows me to access the contact and call history as well, so I've just selected yes, and you can pair. And that's it, it's connected, no problem. PLT BB Fit right there. You might have seen quickly the volume come up on the device as well. Now you can raise the volume on your headphones, of course, via your normal volume slider on the side of your phone, but you can also raise the volume in the way that the manufacturers intended. So when playing some music and you want to increase the volume, you simply press the button on the side of the top right hand side. So if I press that, you can see on the phone as well, it's telling me there that the volume's reached maximum level. And if you want to reduce the volume, hold it down, you can see it goes down quite straightforward. So you can actually probably hear the audio there. It's pretty loud, I gotta say. The volume on these devices is a lot higher than the previous device I had, which was the Jabra Sport Pace, and the quality of the audio has improved over previous versions of these Plantronics units. So definitely a bit more of a punch in the audio quality. So that's a good point. Okay, so the next part of the review We're going to talk about all of its features and how well they actually play out. So I'm going to do an extended review. I'm going to use it for a good while, and then I'll come back to you and let you know how well it's worked out.
You can no doubt tell from the red face I'm just back from a run, but I thought I'd give you the very first feedback for the device and let you know how it's going. Well, it went pretty well. First things first, was it comfortable? Yep, it didn't fall out. It was pretty comfortable, so that's a score 1. Score 2, the sound quality was much better than previous headphones I've had. Obviously, these aren't going to be your Bose or your very top-end headphones. That's not what they're intended for. But really, the quality of those headphones, when I was on my run, was fantastic. It was good enough to bop along to the last 10Ks or so. So fantastic, so far so good. Didn't make any phone calls, and maybe I will do that on a later review. For the next part of this review, we're going to find out just how waterproof these things really are. Now, they've already been out with me on the run, and believe me, it was sweaty. Yeah. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to find out how properly waterproof they are by heading into the shower. But that doesn't involve you. Well, the big question was, do they work coming out of the shower? The answer, yes, which is great. So that gives us a sort of assurance that you can take them out in the rain and everything will be fine. And I made sure I gave them a good old washout. One thing I wouldn't recommend, because I'm pretty sure it would break them, is don't leave the battery charging compartment open, because that's going to ruin things. Yeah, don't do that. I'm sure that's not waterproof in there. So yeah, just make sure if you are using them in the wet, don't leave the battery charging compartment slider open. Right, so as another upside, when I switched the headphones back on, it was really nice to hear that it told me that it had 5 hours charge time left to go. So I'd been using them for just about an hour, and obviously that means that in its equation it's probably got about 6 odd hours of battery runtime. Not quite the 8 that it lied about on the box, but still, if it's got about 6 hours runtime in the battery, then that's pretty reasonable for me. I'll take 6 over 1, maybe 1.5 that I got on the previous headphones that I had. So that's cool. On the down points, whilst I was out on a run, I did have one little problem, and that is that occasionally I'd get audio breakup. That probably happened maybe 3-4 times, and the breakup was absolutely momentary. It was hardly noticeable, but yet again, it still happens, and there was no particular rhyme or reason for it. It didn't seem to be when I was around other Bluetooth devices. It didn't seem to be when there was sort of interference in any way, shape or form. I was actually up the top of a hill running along the ridge. So shouldn't have had any reason for audio breakup. There was. But again, nowhere near the sort of breakups I had on my previous unit. So as I say, I had a Jabra one before that. All I'd have to do is turn to the right or to the left with my head, and I'd have audio corruption. And sometimes it was so bad that there would be a disconnect from the phone. So that was pretty much the only downside that I had so far to using the headphones. I will, however, give them a good old thrashing. I'm not going to charge them. So for the next few days, I'm going to take them out and see how many actual hours I get out of them. And I'm going to be timing it. So I'll update this video as soon as I have the official battery results for you. It's been about 3 weeks since the initial use of the headphones, and I've gone out pretty much 3 times to 4 times a week. I have a few things to note, and that is every single time I've gone out, I've played music and I've played it loud. I've played it at the maximum volume. I would say it's pretty much as loud as I want it to be. Sometimes the tracks are a bit quiet, but that's probably more likely the track than it is my headphones. So I would get about 3.5, possibly 4 hours worth of battery use, not the 8 that's advertised. But a lot of that is to bear in mind that it's full volume. If you are somebody who likes to listen to the audio a little bit quieter, then that's absolutely going to impact the battery life for the better. Secondly, I did take a call. I took a few calls, in fact. On the first run, I took a call which made it obviously reduce the battery life further. The more you're going to start doing these things, the more you're going to notice a lack in battery life. So I took a call. It lasted about 5 minutes. And the quality was crisp and clear. The recipient could hear me just fine, and that was outdoors. I was on a run. I'd stopped to take the call, obviously, but the call quality was pretty much spot on. Now, I would hasten to add that that was on a day where there was no wind. I tried later on to use the feature where you can actually hold down the button and talk to your phone to get it to dial somebody. So, for example, I said, call Mike, and it completely made a mess of that one. But that's also down to the voice recognition technology on your phone, as well as the clarity of the audio going from the headphones. So just bear in mind that that is the case. So I'm going to give you the top pros and the top cons of these headphones, and that will summarise the review of the Plantronics BB Fit. Alright, so the main pros and the main cons of the Plantronics BB Fit. To finish the review, here we go. With the pros, it stays in your ears, and it stays in there pretty good. Secondly, they are comfortable to wear. When you go on a run, you aren't trying to pull them or push them, so that's pretty good. Number 3, they are waterproof, or at least enough to have a shower, to get them really sweaty, but I didn't try anything more than that. I didn't immerse them in water. The battery life is better than some other models of the same sort of quality or type. It isn't 8 hours as advised though. Number 5, the sound volume is pretty much loud enough. I'm quite happy with the volume of the sound when listening to songs. Number 6, the call quality is good in ideal weather conditions. So when I was running along, stopped, take a call, nothing was a problem. The cons, the bad points of the Plantronics BB Fit. Number 1, the battery life is still less than advertised on the box. It said 8 hours. And it's not. Number 2, audio breakup still happens regardless of the phone. And I was experiencing it far less than other models I had breakup with. The Jabra, for example, before. This one, I only get it in certain conditions. The worst ever time was when I started playback. I was in my office, I ran up the road, and the playback was consistently bad until I actually switched off the headphones. I had to stop my run, switch the headphones completely off, and then start them up again, and then the music played absolutely fine. So I wasn't quite sure what happened, but that was the most severe audio breakup I've ever actually had on any Bluetooth headphones before, but it only happened once, so that makes me think that it wasn't actually a direct issue of the headphones, maybe just some sort of anomaly. But yeah, definitely still audio breakup. I notice it especially when I sort of turn my head or move to the side or something like that. It seems to be in certain conditions, although I haven't completely nailed down what they are. They're not terrible though, and they don't bother me so much that I feel like taking them back or anything like that. Number 3 on the cons list, there is a lack of fitness training features like the Jabra headphones had. So for example, with the Jabra headphones you get some inbuilt features which talks to the Jabra Sport application which runs on your phone. You can do things like do a kettle run which will tell you, it'll monitor how quickly you're running over a set period of time. I mean, these features are not a big deal, and of course if you're using a run app such as Strava or MyFitnessPal or even Fitbit, those sorts of things usually track these things anyway, so it's not a big deal. But it was nice on the Jabras and other headphones that you can hear feedback from your run to tell you how you're doing along the way, whereas this is pretty much just a pair of headphones with a call functionality. There's nothing special that would make them sport other than their other water resistant, sweat resistant features. And finally, the last thing I would say that's a con is that when you sweat, if you're running along enough and you're running at a good pace and you've been running a wee while, sweat builds up. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. And your sweat, especially if you've got a haircut like mine, is going to start coming down the sides of your ears, and then guess what? It's going to go in there and it's going to get stuck. Because these headphones don't have any sort of channel or anything like that to let the sweat drip down out of your ears. So they're going to get stuck in there, and pretty much every sort of 10k plus run that I've been out of, I've had to just take the headphone, just one of them, out of the ear and let the sweat run out or pull it out even. So pretty gross, I know, but these are things you have to consider. They're not ideal for channeling the sweat out of your ears. So yeah, that's just one thing to consider. It is kind of annoying when it gets all wet in there. It's not nice. Alright, so those are the features, the pros and the cons of the Plantronics BB Fit. Thank you very much for watching my review and also the unboxing. If you do have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comments box below and let me know. I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any other ones. Until then, thanks very much for watching.